vote and or whether they will feel that it is safer to stay home, we'll have yet to see.
Our correspondent Thomas Fassi there in Paris. Professor John Blaxland is acting head at the Bell School of Strategic and Defence Studies in Canberra. We speak to him now live. Professor, thank you for your time. It seems this attacker was known to the intelligence services. He'd posted his intentions on a social messaging service. What more would you say the authorities can do to prevent incidents such as this?
Well, what we're seeing, Mike, is this is becoming the new normal. And it's proving very difficult for the security and intelligence services to stay one step ahead of the game. They've been additionally resourced, and there will be calls undoubtedly for more extreme measures, but we need to be very careful about taking any drastic step. We need to be looking at incremental improvement in the strategies that are already in place for countering violent extremism. Of course, in France, that's particularly problematic because of the large bodies of communities where people who are disaffected can hide and infest. Of course, the problem here is also the issue of Daesh, or the so-called Islamic State, and its permutations, if you like, emerging with the defeat of many of the forces in Iraq and Syria. And we're probably going to see more of this kind of action in the future. But we've got to think about the detection threshold. While there may have been some indications out there of this act being imminent, it's very hard, given the volume of material the intelligence and security services have to wade through, to be on top of it in a timely manner, and then to provide direction to the security forces to respond to those tip-offs, which in themselves may not be indicative of an actual event, but might be a spoof, or it might be something to put somebody off the trail. So we're at a point now where the security services have done, I think, as much as they can. We're now in the position where we actually need the community to buy in more, and this is where the most pundits are considering the best approach for countering violent extremism is about engaging with society, engaging with minority groups, engaging with schools and communities and community groups to have a constructive leavening effect on society, and to be looking for the tips that the security agencies can then respond to effectively. Let's not forget the overwhelming majority of the people from minority groups from which these terrorists spring are peace-loving, law-abiding people who want to fit in society. So we need to be very careful not to buy in on the rhetoric of this goading act, this act to evoke an overly strong reaction from the society and from the security forces. It's a conundrum we face, but essentially we need to keep calm and carry on.
And just briefly, if you can, even when intelligence services do focus in on a suspect, many sources will tell us, of course, it's so labour intensive to run a 24/7 surveillance just on one suspect, they have to prioritise.
Indeed, we have to prioritise, but also Western countries are essentially societies that presume innocence, and security forces, by and large, as opposed to intelligence forces, act on crimes versus preemptively in anticipation of an act based on tip-offs. It's very hard the fine line to be drawn there between acting overly preemptively and actually imposing too much on society, and at the same time providing the level of security that society expects. That expectation has clearly risen. Whether the security and intelligence services are able to do more, my sense is they can incrementally improve things, but dramatically change things, not without dramatic convulsion in society. We think about the last time we've seriously contemplated dealing with this on a massive scale. We talk about internment from the Second World War. And that, of course, is completely untenable and logistically impossible, and would be catastrophic for society. in the absence of a course of action like that open to us, we need to be looking, as I say, to avoid responding to the goading, to act constructively across society, to encourage our security and intelligence services to act and to incrementally improve their game, to ratchet up the pressure. But all of us, we all have a role here to play in providing a constructive effect on society, in ensuring that those people who are law-abiding, well-intentioned, don't get caught up in this toxic brew that is so cancerous in our society.
Professor, thank you very much indeed for that.
My pleasure, Mike.
Well, France has endured a series of attacks in the past 3 years.